Hi, it's Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver. Vancouver's best auto service experience, 21-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver, as voted by their customer. How are you doing this morning, Bernie?
Doing very well.
So a bit of a controversial subject these days, very frustrating for a lot of folks. How do we protect ourselves from catalytic converter theft? What's going on?
Yeah, so there's a lot in the news about catalytic converter theft these days. It seems to be on the rise. It's been going on for a long time. And catalytic converters have always had some value as scrap metal. They're filled with precious metals, and so it's a good way for a thief to make a quick buck by removing a catalytic converter from a car. But the price fluctuates, and catalytic converters generally have three precious metals: platinum, palladium, and rhodium. Rhodium is extremely valuable at the present time, so catalytic converters are worth a lot more money these days.
So are there specific vehicles targeted?
There are. So vehicles are targeted based on, one, on ease of removal, and second, on the value of the catalytic converter. And Toyota Prius is a lot in the news about Priuses. There's a lot of areas, not around Vancouver that I've heard, but certainly in California, Oregon, a lot in England where people have, this is what I hear in the news, and there's probably a lot of other places, but Priuses seem to be targeted very highly.
And why?
The catalytic converter in Toyota Prius it's valuable because it has a lot of precious metals in it. To achieve the low emissions that the Toyota sets out to achieve, they pack the converter with a lot of precious metals. The more precious metal you put in the converter, the better it actually works. You can buy, in the past, you can go to an auto parts store and buy an aftermarket replacement catalytic converter. They used to have converter, they still do, it's $100 to buy a converter, whereas the dealer's, converter may be $1,200. Just giving round examples. And the Toyota Prius ones are substantially more money than that because of the precious metals. But the cheap $100 converters, they barely have any precious metals in them. They just have enough that you'll get you through an emission test and fail within a year again. So they're not very good. Factory converters, they all have very high precious metal loading, but Priuses are exceptionally high.
So a catalytic converter, basically, it's taking the pollutants, certain pollutants, and those precious metals are actually bonding those pollutants and keeping them inside of the catalytic converter rather than shoving them out this tailpipe. Is that kind of a rough approximation of what's happening?
Actually, no, it doesn't work that way. And I'll be honest, I can't tell you exactly, but what happens is as the exhaust flows past, the hydrocarbon, NOx, and carbon monoxide are actually converted to CO2 and water. And that's basically how it works. As these gases pass the metals and their heat, there has to be heat in the reaction. It creates a chemical conversion. So that's basically what happens. So, as much as we hate CO2 coming out to the air, a catalytic converter actually puts more CO2 out because it's actually taking those harmful pollutants, hydrocarbons, NOx, and carbon monoxide, and converting them to carbon dioxide and water. So the water's good, but the CO2 certainly is not. But higher CO2, it's better combustion. But that's basically how it does it. So catalytic converters, they don't really wear out. They're supposedly last a lifetime of a vehicle, but they do fail eventually. And usually it's due to sometimes they can get overheated and damaged, but a lot of times the catalyst material just gets coated over by crap, in the exhaust, and eventually it just isn't as efficient. But generally, even an old catalytic converter still has all that precious metal, generally stays intact.
So isn't it difficult to get a catalytic converter out of a car?
Well, it is usually, but there are some vehicles that are easier than others. Trucks, for instance, they sit higher, so someone can crawl underneath. Thieves cut these things out. It's easier nowadays because there's so many portable power tools, good battery-powered tools. So with a reciprocating saw, you can just get underneath there with a metal blade and in a matter of a minute or two, cut the catalytic converter out. So trucks are a good target because they sit high. Priuses, of course, don't sit high, but they're highly valuable. So thieves, there's a video you can watch on YouTube. Couple of crafty guys in England pull up beside a Prius. They jack the vehicle up. One guy crawls underneath. I think it's 90 seconds or something. They pop the vehicle down. They're gone with the catalytic converter. Probably, make them $300 to $400 in scrap metal, and that's a pretty good haul. I'm not giving anyone any ideas, but it's you got a couple of those a day, you could make a pretty good living till you get caught.
Hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah.
So how can I prevent my catalytic converter from being stolen?
Well, there's a few items, a few methods. First of all, if you have a locked, a garage that you can park your car in, preferably in a private residence, that's probably the safest place. But second would be, if you live in an apartment complex or something that has shared parking, an underground parking lot, would be a good spot. However, people can get in, they do break into those kind of places. So, it's not 100% safe, but it's better than the alternative. One thing to avoid is dark streets where there's no traffic at night. My shop's in an industrial area, and down the road from me, I've had actually a couple of neighbors who've had catalytic converters stolen off their vehicles because it gets dark down here. There's really no traffic, and it's a perfect place for a thief to do something. So if you're on a busier road with more traffic, that's a good preventative. The other thing, of course, is you can make things, and there's protective shields available. I'll just share a photo here or two. We had a customer come in a while ago with it was an older Toyota pickup truck, 4-wheel drive pickup truck, had a bit of a lift on it. So this would have been a really easy vehicle to take a catalytic converter out of. But this person had, I don't know when, had a customized catalytic converter protective shield put into it. The red arrows kind of point to the shield, which is, I shouldn't say shield. I mean, it's all steel bars. But with a reciprocating saw, even if you did actually manage to reach in and cut the pipe, you'd never be able to sneak it out past this area. So really well thought out item. There's another view of it from the front, again, with the protective pieces in the way. The one thing about this, it's a bit of a pain, is if you ever have to do any repairs and remove this, you're going to have to cut this piece off and cut it apart to get it out. But it's not something in the course of normal automotive repair that you need to remove this, but there are times when you would, so that would cost you some extra money. But I mean, really a pretty cool creative solution. You don't want to go this kind of route of customization. There are items available if you look online there, and we'll put some links for a couple of products. We've never used them, so we can't personally endorse them, but some interesting ideas. There's a company that makes shields specifically for Toyota Priuses. I think they're stainless steel, and they bolt in underneath the vehicle, which is good. I mean, it's not like a thief couldn't remove them, but any deterrent helps. If you have two Priuses, one with the shield, one without it, they're going to go with the one without it. So that's one item. There are some wire cables that basically clamp up to your exhaust pipe. These are like hardened steel wires. Again, it makes it very difficult for a thief to cut the converter. Again, thieves want to do stuff fast. They want to do it quick. And if they can't do that, then then they're going to move on to the next thing. There's also one that's even more interesting. It's some steel cables attached to the exhaust pipe. They cut down the length of the exhaust pipe from the front over the catalytic converter. It comes with an alarm. And you have a fob you can set it. It's actually not very expensive, surprisingly, but there's a fob, and it has I think 110 or 120 decibel siren that sounds, and you're supposed to set up underneath and, of course, blow the thief's ears out while they're in the middle of cutting the converter and scare them away. But it also has some if they happen to, whatever, break the siren off or whatever they do, it has some protective wires, again, steel wires that slow the process down. So that's another one I thought was kind of an interesting idea. Although the idea of having another fob to, arm your vehicle for catalytic converter theft seems a little extreme to me. Like, it seems like a lot of work, but I guess if you live in an area where that happens, it might be an option. So those are a few items. As I mentioned, we'll put some notes in the end. So
this is an item that you've had to replace far too many times already.
Yeah, we've done quite a few. It really varies with the price of precious metal. Sometimes when the price goes down, then the level of theft goes down. It's often talked about the ethics of scrap dealers. I mean, you get a couple of guys walking in, hey, I got this catalytic converter. I mean, why are they not calling the police or checking credentials? They're supposed to do that kind of thing. For some reason they don't, or people get away with it somehow. I mean, we've sold lots of catalytic converters to scrap metal dealers over the years because, we don't do that many anymore. But, when we used to have air care, like emission testing in Vancouver, catalytic converter replacement was a pretty common thing we do. Now we don't do as much, we do it occasionally. So we'd have scrap metal dealers coming by buying converters, and some of them, go for a fair chunk of money, but not what they're going for today. Some of them are really high valued.
So there you go. If you need to protect yourself, guys to call in Vancouver, Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. They can only help you in Vancouver. If you're somewhere else, because we know this is a popular subject worldwide, you can check out the links that we have below in the show notes or on the blog post on the website. Of course, if you're looking for more information on repairing your make or model of car or specific kind of issue that you're having, you can check out a blog post, over 640 on the website and or on our YouTube channel, Pawlik Auto Repair. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate it. Give us a review on Apple iTunes or Spotify. And thanks, Bernie.
Thank you, Mark. And just one other thing I want to add in the end, your car insurance may pay for that if your converter's stolen. So just something else to look at. This is just your little bonus tip for listening to all our credits at the end of the podcast.